guys, Debbie here. Welcome to my channel if you're new here, or welcome back. I'm super excited for this video. It's a collab video with the amazing Betty Jean, or Beautbean as you know her from her channel. And I've been a fan of Betty Jean's for probably about a year now. I stalk her comments. I leave her 2 or 3 comments every video, and I try to watch every video. She's been such an inspiration to me. And I remember reaching out to her about probably a year ago, saying I'll never be able to blend like you do, and I still can't. I'm in awe of her blending skills, how she creates these amazing blown out grungy looks. And also you guys have seen me adopt the glitter glue on the lids technique to be able to make my shimmers pop. I stole that one from Betty Jean and I've learnt so much technique wise by watching her, but she's got very similar style in terms of the colours that she likes to me, particularly with the more grungy tones. So I just gravitate towards her channel for that reason. She's just an all-round sweetheart, just such a nice person as well. I reached out to her asking her whether she would collab with me with my channel with, you know, just over 300 subscribers, and she's got 10,000. I was like, well, I don't know if she'll say yes, and I always feel a bit awkward asking. And she said yes straight away, and she was super sweet about it. She pre-planned most of December, but she managed to squeeze me in and gave me a few options of what we might do. And we both decided to do this particular video because we love eyeshadows so much, and I think we might have a few eyeshadows in common in this. But what we're going to do is, if I could only keep 10 palettes, 10 eyeshadow palettes. And Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner started this one off and made it a tag, and she found it quite difficult as well. I've watched her video and she found it quite difficult to choose the palettes because being YouTubers and being a bit crazy with collecting makeup, we've got a lot of palettes, all of us that do this. I've got around about 170 eyeshadow palettes, I think, and I love most of them. I wouldn't have bought them if I didn't. So to narrow it down to just 10 is very, very difficult. So I'm eager to see which ones Betty Jean will pick, because quite a few of the ones in my pile, or at least 2 of them I would say, I bought because of her, and seeing her use them inspired me to buy them, and I think they are favourites of hers as well. So I think we might have a little bit of crossover there, but I don't know what the rest of hers will be, and we do have different palettes in our collection to each other. So I would encourage you to hop over and watch Betty Jean's video after you've watched mine. But on with my picks then. So when I was deciding which 10 to choose, I thought there's one palette in here that I don't actually use, but I could not bear to throw this palette away. So I'm going to start with that one. If I could only keep 10, this would have to stay. And I'm a very emotional person. I think you guys probably know if you've been watching me for a while. I tear up quite easily. I'm very emotional, but this palette has got such an emotional pull on me because the first video I made for YouTube was a palette collection video with Urban Decay palettes. And I've been a long-term die-hard for Urban Decay. Not so much these days. I don't think their palettes are quite what they used to be for packaging. But this particular palette just has my heart. So it's the Alice in Wonderland palette, and I'll show you why I love it so much. As I say, I've used it I think only twice, so it's going to leave me with 9 palettes left if this was my collection to actually use. But I've not even unpacked the brush is still in there. I have used it once. Don't think I've used it on camera, but I've used it for an Instagram video. But you can take the palette out of the box, so it is quite practical to use, and the shades are really pretty. And what I used it for when I did use it was that shade Metamorphosis, which is such a beautiful blue. It's got a beautiful pink and a beautiful green in there, and the rest of it is pretty neutral, to be honest, but it's the packaging that sells it and makes it so special. So if you open up the palette, you've got a mirror inside there, and then you've got these like little tabs. This was way easier when I showed it on my collection video because I was doing it overhead when I filmed, but you open up these tabs and the little butterfly flutters inside. But it's just a collector's piece, and I couldn't bear to part with it. I'm going to keep that forever. So that's my number 1. These aren't in any order in terms of like which is my favourite, and actually the rest of them, some of them are favourites in my collection, some of them not so much, but they're there for a reason. So moving on to the next one then. I would have to have a silver in my collection, and the very best silver in my collection is in this palette by Collab. Now, considering I can only have 10 palettes and this is only a £6 palette, it says a lot that this one has made it. And it's got some really beautiful neutrals in there. But the reason I'm keeping it is that silver. The silver and the shimmery red, actually. Those two I could not live without in my collection. I was looking for a silver that pops like liquid metal on the eyes and I just couldn't find one, and then bought this palette and I was just literally blown away. So there's no way I'm letting go of this now I've got it. So this one stays in my collection for that reason. Reds always have my heart. I've got reds and pinks on today. I filmed this look, by the way, and it should already be up if you want to check out what I've used. It's not from any of these palettes in this 10 palettes video though. It is a new palette that I've just recently bought and I'm trying out. But that's the Collab Cyber Bronze from the Futurism collection. Absolutely love, as I say, the silver and red in that one. Okay, the next one I don't think will come as any surprise to anybody, and I think we'll make it into other people's collections as well. I know Annette featured this one and I have to agree. It's the Creepy Cute from Strobe, now called Shroud Cosmetics. It is just the most perfect pastel palette. The formula of those pastels is incredible. You've seen me use this, or those videos on my channel with this, probably 3 or 4 videos featuring this. And I love it for the grey Tombstone. The Black Void is my favourite black in my collection. So you'd think, bought a pastel palette and I'm talking about like the dark colours, but those are amazing. And then the Cold Shoulder shade, the blue there, is awesome. I love the green, Take a Hint. I love Strawberry Milk. I just love every shade in this palette really. It's the perfect one for crease shades if you want to use a shimmer from another palette and you want a colourful crease. But they're the most pigmented pastels you're ever going to get. And it's just such gorgeous packaging as well. So absolutely love it. And I could not live without that one. Use it a lot actually. In my own time, probably at least once or twice a week. Okay, the next one, I went backwards and forwards as to which of his palettes to choose. It's a Jeffree Star palette. I've chosen the Jawbreaker. I'm in an hour in between this one or the Blood Sugar because I love red so much. But then I'm limited to only having 10 palettes and I need some colours in my life. And there's still quite a lot of reds and oranges in here, and there's also a beautiful purple shimmer as well. So you've got all of the, I'll hold it that way so you can still see me. You've got all of the pastel shades you might ever want. I've done a look sort of going along those pastel shades together and they looked absolutely gorgeous. Again, those pastels work great as crease shades. But you've also got some deep intensity from like having a navy blue in there, having this deep red, a lighter red, an orange. So they are a lot of the colours I gravitate towards anyway. And then there's some very interesting shimmers as well. So that orange shimmer is very unique to my collection, and having a yellow shimmer is fantastic. This one down here as well has got a bit of a duochrome shift to it. So there's lots of options in this palette. And I love Jeffree's palettes, I love all of them, but I think if I'm only going to have 10 palettes, I want to have lots of options. I didn't want to choose one of the smaller ones like Beauty Killer, which I absolutely love, but I didn't want to choose that and limit myself, so I've gone for this one. And then also in terms of larger palettes, this one had to be in my collection. It's one of the best palettes I've ever bought, honestly. And I've used it a couple of times on my channel, but not recently. But every time I do use it, I feel like I wish I used it more and I had the opportunity to. But being a YouTuber, that is difficult. You can't keep using the same thing all the time. But it is the Be Perfect Carnival palette. So then, why do I love this palette so much? Well, you've got here some really beautiful shades that are neon on the eyes, but they blend like proper shadows. They don't just need to be packed on like a lot of those type of shades do. You've got a really beautiful purple, and you've got more of a sort of mulberry shade. You've got very interesting forest green. You've got a tealy sort of shimmer in there. In terms of shimmers, there's more mattes than there are shimmers, but the more sort of bronzy one, or sorry, rose gold one and bronzy shimmer are both really nice with all of the shades that are in here. You've got a couple of blues, you've got a navy deepening up shade. I just gravitate to this palette all the time in my own time. That yellow is super lovely, like a creamy sort of buttery yellow. Not as good as Buttercup Cake from Sugar Pill, but pretty close. If I could have had singles, then Sugar Pill would have been there, but I'm trying to follow the rules. But absolutely adore this palette. I don't use the two highlights that are in it because they are a bit dark for me, and I don't like how bulky the palette is, but in terms of the quality of the shades and the shade range in there, I just wouldn't want to part with that one. So then moving into one that I deliberated over for quite some time, because I was like, I've got a lot of reds now. I've got a couple of palettes that are rainbow. I've got a collector's item there. I've got a silver. What am I missing? And I thought, I've got no blues and greens really, or not very many blues and greens. So I was thinking, I don't use blues that often. I use greens more. What's got blues and greens in it? And then I remembered I've not used this palette in the longest time, but remembering how much I loved it when I bought it in the summer. And this is a Certified Affinity 2. And you've got the blue tones here, but you've also got some really interesting duochromes. So just having the option to put those duochromes in, the bottom half pretty much being green and the top being blue, but so many different tones of blues and greens. I think if I wanted to do a blue or a green look, or mix up the two, I've got every option I might want with that palette. And really nice package as well. So that one's made my cut. And then we're down to probably 4 of my absolute favourite palettes in my collection, as well as being ones that would be really useful in filling gaps in my collection as well. So I've just talked about greens. I think green is my favourite colour other than red to wear. So, and Juvia's is one of my favourite brands. So the next one is going to be the Tribe palette. I went backwards and forwards looking at my Juvia's Place palettes, thinking which one, if I could only keep one, would I get the most use out of, and that's how I chose which one to go for. And I went for this because you've got the warm tone oranges that I adore, but you've also got a very interesting couple of duochrome shades here, very nice lime shade. And even like the shade of Shanty there, it looks like it's brown, but it's got like that grungy sort of undertone to it. It's reflecting awful off of my ring light, but it's an adorable colour scheme. I just love this colour scheme so much. So yeah, the Tribe has made my cut definitely. And just pulling out these palettes again, I just want to use that again. I love that palette so much. Okay, the next one I don't think will be a surprise to anyone that's followed me from the beginning, but I've not used it in a very, very long time on camera, but absolutely love it. I feel like I've got lots of colours here now, so I've got all my rainbow shades, I've got my greens, my blues, my reds, but I don't have that many neutrals. I've got those 3 neutrals that are in the palette from Collab, but not very many more. So I wanted a palette that's got some neutrals, but I didn't want just neutrals in the palette, and this is where this one comes in, and it's the So Sue by Suzanne Jackson Kalida Urban Bible palette. And honestly, this is my top recommendation for the year, probably my #1 palette of the year, giving that away. So this is the colour story, and if you cut it across like that, all of these are your neutral shades, but very interesting grungy neutral shades. You've got beautiful duochrome there, and on the bottom half you've got your purple, you've got your really bright fiery red, you've got an orange, and then those 3 shimmers, particularly that one is stunning. You've also got a white, which I hadn't got in my little palette collection so far. Now white is essential, it's a pretty good white, and you've got a black. And honestly, this palette goes with me everywhere because I can pretty much do most of the looks that I like to create using this palette. Even the neutrals are just interesting tones, and like for example, that shade there doesn't look at anything in the pan, but it shears out to like a plummy sort of cranberry colour. It's just stunning on the eyes and goes with so many of the other colours in the palette. So one of my absolute favourites. So that's the Suzanne Jackson Urban Bible palette. So we're down to the last two. So maybe pause the video now and drop a comment. What do you think is going to be there? How well do you guys know me? I've got two left, as I say, and this one had to be there. There had to be something from this brand because they're one of my favourite brands that I've discovered this year. And this is my favourite palette from them. So it is, of course, Menagerie, and it's the Feral palette. So why did I choose the Feral over the others? Well, that's why. I feel like, as I say, green I absolutely adore. I love red and I love purple. But the shimmers in this palette are something else. So that shade Wolfling is just the most beautiful shimmer on the eyes. It's got like these specks of glitter, but it's not like glitter that's not eye safe. It's just shimmer that really like reflects and just looks absolutely stunning. And you can do a neutral look with that, packing that there, but you can also bring some coral intensity into it. I love having the option of having a teal in there. Colour story, quite honestly, for a colourful makeup lover, but that like sort of the more grungy tones is genius. And I just love it, and I love the packaging of it. I just couldn't bear to part with this one, so that had to be there. So we've got one left, and I think this one will be in Betty Jean's collection too, because this is why I have it in mine. And it's, of course, the Ace Beauté Flare palette. I remember Betty Jean talking about this as being her #1 favourite palette. And I thought, if it's her #1 favourite palette, I'm probably going to love it. And I remember picking it up, having seen that video, and I've used it so much. The formula is brilliant. I bought the Classical Paradise as well after buying this one. Now that's the shades inside, and I think it's going to give me a lot of options because that biscotti shade is great as a highlight, but also great as an inner corner shade or a lid shade. You've got my favourite shadow pretty much in my entire collection with Saffron, which is the most beautifully intense orangey red. You've got more of your pumpkin spice kind of orangey shades in there, and then some grungy sort of greens and teals and a really bright pop of lime there as well. So much you can do with this palette, and the formula is just incredible in this palette. I think it's a love-hate thing for Ace Beauté, because I know some people find them difficult to work with because they're ultra pigmented and packed over an unset base. They do take some blending out, but you just get such vibrant colour from them. So if you love colour like I do, that's, you know, why I like that palette so much. This was so difficult. I think I spent about an hour and a half before filming this, putting palettes in, taking them out, and there's so many that nearly made the cut that I love so much. And I chose these because some of them have got emotional connections for me, like Menagerie. I just love the brand so much, and like my Urban Decay Alice in Wonderland palette, you know, because that's a palette from the past and I just love it so much, and it kind of helped launch my channel. But then others that I've discovered along the way, like the Ace Beauté, and also Kaleidos. You know, I've discovered so much about my shadow preferences by doing this, sort of thinking if I really had to nail it down, what are the formulas I like, what are the colours I like. And I think I've done a reasonably good job. I think I could pretty much create any Debbie kind of look with these palettes. So that's kind of how I decided to do it. So hope you've enjoyed seeing my picks. I really can't wait to see what Betty Jean has picked, because probably it's going to inspire me to pick up more palettes, because I bet there's going to be some there that she'll talk about in such a way that I'm going to want them, because she just has that kind of effect on me when I watch her channel. But she's super talented and just the nicest person. Betty Jean, thank you so much for doing this collab with me. It means the absolute world to me. I've been a fan of your channel for so long. It's one of those fangirl moments that when you're new to YouTube and you're trying to build your channel, you never think is going to happen. You know, that you can collab with someone that you've been watching as a viewer and you admire so much. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's made my Christmas. Guys, go over and show Betty Jean some love. If you're not subscribed to her and you come from my channel to hers, then I think you're going to absolutely love her. And if you've come from Betty Jean's channel, welcome. I hope you might stick around and subscribe to mine. I do colourful eye looks, but I also do some neutrals. I like the grungy sort of tones that I've been talking about in these palettes, and the style of makeup that I've got on today is pretty much what I do most of the time. I like a bit of a winged out shape. The Debbie wing features quite often, and I always like to do bright intense lips as well. I'm not really too much of a neutral lip girl, so if you're down for all of that, then I'd love to have you along. But as I say, thank you so much for watching. If you've liked the video, give it a like, comment down below which was the favourite palette out of the ones that I've shown you, and what would you like to see me use more of. I'd love to know. But have a lovely day or night wherever you are, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.